Ukraine's energy and justice ministers have resigned over a bribery scandal. They were named in an investigation into corruption in the energy sector, and President Zelenskyy called for them to go. The European Union has made fighting corruption a condition of Ukraine joining the bloc in the future.
Safes and briefcases stuffed with cash, seized as part of an alleged $100 million bribery scheme. Ukraine's anti-corruption investigators are looking into the role that Justice Minister Herman Hadoshenko, seen here on the left in archive footage, may have played in the scheme when he was Ukraine's energy minister. The conspirators allegedly took kickbacks during the construction of protective structures around energy facilities to shield them from Russian air attacks. The alleged mastermind, businessman Timur Mindish, is a former associate of President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Mindish is thought to have fled the country. Prosecutors have detained 5 people and identified 7 suspects, including Energy Ministry employees. Ukraine's government is sensitive to accusations of corruption, fearing they could undermine international support in its war against Russia. President Zelenskyy called on both the justice and energy ministers to resign.
First of all, there should be maximum transparency in the energy sector and in all processes. I support every investigation by law enforcement and anti-corruption bodies. I believe that the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Energy cannot remain in their positions. This is also a matter of trust. If there are accusations, they must be answered.
For Ukrainians, the scandal is especially bitter as Russia again targets energy and heating infrastructure, causing widespread blackouts as temperatures drop.
Let's cross over to our correspondents on the ground, Nick Connolly in Kyiv, Jack Perrick in Brussels. Nick, to you first. How are Ukrainians reacting to the unfolding corruption scandal, especially in light of the war's hardships?
Well, exactly. That is the situation here. People left without power for several hours a day and then have power for a few more hours and then back into the darkness. That is the thing they've been living with since these Russian attacks on the energy system basically got back kind of into swing a couple of weeks ago. And the idea that people were earning money and not doing their job protecting the energy infrastructure from Russian attacks that everyone was expecting is something that is just mind-boggling to people. I think people expect maybe some level of corruption in kind of more abstract terms, but to have it proven to them also with these extraordinary wiretaps that just give you the kind of full detail of the kind of personal connections, people picking up suitcases of money, the crazy nicknames these politicians and these kind of insiders gave each other. The guy in charge called himself Carlson after a children's book. Che Guevara was a government minister. These are all things that basically cut through in a way that lots of other corruption scandals don't, and is something that you really hear people in the metro on the street talking about.
And Jack, let's get the perspective from Brussels. What are the EU's main concerns about how this scandal might impact its support for Ukraine?
Well, the optics for European voters and European taxpayers who are funding or helping to fund Ukraine's war effort is obviously a complication. We heard from the EU foreign policy chief. She called it extremely unfortunate, this corruption scandal. And she also, echoing what Nick was saying, said that the money that these people were embezzling was meant to be going to the front lines. It just doesn't really add up in the European Union circles. And as we heard, corruption is a really, really big issue for the European Union in the optics. The detractors of Ukraine within the EU, people like Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, use this kind of corruption scandal to support what they, call for, which is for Ukraine not to become an EU member state and for the EU to decrease its support for Ukraine, essentially. So as far as optics goes, this certainly isn't great for Ukraine's position within the European Union as the money issue continues to be discussed.
And Nick, how are the recent resignations of key ministers impacting the government's ability to manage the ongoing energy crisis?
I mean, these are the top people, right, in the ministry. So I think lots of the kind of technical people are still in place. That is not necessarily affected by these resignations. I think there will be calls for new people to come in because it seems like lots of these attacks by Russia on the energy grid could have been better prepared for. Some parts of the energy system are prepared, others less so. We recently heard about attacks on the kind of transformer stations that take the power from Ukraine's remaining nuclear power stations and basically send them around the country. Obviously, for now, Russia has stepped back, has withheld attacks on those nuclear power stations themselves, but the actual infrastructure that gets that power out is under attack, and that could have been prevented, is what lots of people here say. I think what I would say is that lots of people here in Ukraine are saying this is also a sign of the maturity of these anti-corruption bodies, that they are willing to do something like this that is so damaging also to Ukraine's international reputation. They are willing to challenge the government. They are willing to challenge people like Timur Minjic, the guy at the heart of this, who is a former business partner of President Zelensky's when they were both in show business. So that is also being seen as a kind of sign of the kind of, independence and also the maturity of the institutions, that they have the ability to push through and to not respond to threats or intimidation and actually get that out here.
And Jack, what kind of messages or demands are EU leaders now sending to Kyiv about maintaining progress on anti-corruption reforms?
Well, it's a key issue for Ukraine's membership of the European Union. We're going to have a speech today by Marta Koss, the European Commissioner for Enlargement, which means she's in charge of getting members into the European Union. We expect her to highlight this corruption issue very prominently. Outside of that, here in Brussels at the moment, there's two big financial discussions happening. One is over the 7-year budget of the European Union, where they're looking at earmarking potentially 100 billion euros in that 7-year budget for the reconstruction of a post-war Ukraine, and the other is about unfreezing around 140 billion euros of assets, Russian assets, that are frozen here in Belgium. And those discussions are obviously complicated, these financial discussions, when there is this corruption scandal that is, rumbling on in Ukraine domestically.
Nick, can you put this into the big picture for us? Give us a sense of the challenges right now that Ukrainian anti-corruption investigators are facing as they pursue these high-profile cases amid wartime pressures.
Well, some of our viewers might remember in the summer protests, images of people out with cardboard, kind of placards, posters in front of the government offices demanding that these, anti-corruption organisations maintain their independence. And now people are connecting the dots and saying that this was an attempt back then, a couple of months ago, by the government to basically bring these organisations to heel and prevent them snooping, investigating that close to the top people in charge in this country. And the fact that, basically you had significant numbers of people coming out in the streets telling the government, we are not trying to, get you out of power. We are not against you per se, but we are here for these institutions and we really care and we are actually paying attention. That is a sign that, Ukrainian civil society has basically been able to flex its muscles and that these institutions are able to do their job. And I think kind of most interestingly is the way they're presenting these revelations. It's really like a kind of Netflix series, drip, drip, drip. It's high kind of production values on videos. They've brought out the wiretaps so that actually normal people who might normally zone out of these kind of investigations and it would be left to kind of the experts and the anti-corruption activists are really paying attention for the first time. So they've really caught people's imagination. The question is obviously what kind of pressure they're going to come under from maybe other parts of the government, other people who have things to hide. But for now, it seems like they're pretty confident and also doing it in a way that actually takes public opinion with them and keeps people engaged.
Nick Connolly in Kyiv, Jack Parrick in Brussels. Thank you.